Sagebrush, Colorado, 1885. Owen Callister had one hand on his tool chest when Adelaide Vane stopped him at the top of the stairs. "Who said your work was finished?" He turned. She was in the doorway of the bedroom, arms crossed, with the expression of a woman who has a position and intends to hold it. He looked toward the room behind her. The bed was set, the frame square, the headboard secured. 3 days of work, complete. "The bed is done," he said. "The bed is done," she agreed. "The shelving unit for the east wall isn't started. The writing table is in the contract. The back porch railing needs replacing." She held his gaze. "I have the contract here if you need to check." He stood at the top of the stairs. She stood in the doorway. Neither of them was talking about the contract. 3 days earlier, he had believed this would be the simplest commission he'd taken all year. He had believed this at the moment he walked into the Vane house for the first time, and he had continued believing it for approximately 4 hours. He had stopped believing it on the first morning, when a woman he had not yet properly met appeared in the doorway of the room he was setting up to work in and said, without preamble, "The grain on that center plank runs the wrong direction for a headboard." She was right. He had been planning to swap it. He had not yet said so. He had said, "I was going to swap it." She had looked at him with the direct brown eyes of someone who has said a true thing and is waiting to see whether the person she said it to is going to pretend otherwise. "I know," she said. "I'm telling you now so you don't have to go back to Henderson's twice." Then she left. Owen stood in the room and looked at the plank and thought about the specific experience of being told something accurate by someone he had not expected to tell him anything at all. He went back to Henderson's the next morning. Edmund Vane had hired Owen 6 weeks ago, before he left for Denver. Edmund Vane was 52 years old, a broad-shouldered man who had built a commercial enterprise over 30 years, and who had the look of someone who had been making practical decisions long enough that practical had become the only category. He had hired Owen for the third phase of improvements to the house. New floors in the east wing, built-in shelving for the library, and the bedroom furniture for Adelaide's room, which he had promised her at 25, and which had been delayed twice by other projects. Edmund himself was currently in Denver on business that would keep him away for 2 weeks. He had left his daughter in charge. Owen had understood from this that his contact on the project would be a young woman who would look in occasionally, and otherwise leave him to work in peace. He had been wrong about this within 4 hours of arriving. Adelaide Vane had opinions about wood. This was not a quality Owen had encountered before in the people who hired him. He had built furniture and flooring and shelving for people in 11 towns over 8 years, and none of them had ever noticed the grain direction on the first morning, or pointed out a hairline check in a side rail before he had looked for it himself. She had done both on the first morning. She had also brought him coffee without making a conversation out of it, set it on the window ledge, and left before he could thank her. She had brought lunch on the third day, left it on the sill, and was not there when he came up to find it. She had appeared in the doorway on the second afternoon and sat watching him work on the headboard for 20 minutes without saying anything, and when she left, she said only, "The grain is better." It was. He had gone back to Henderson's for it. Henderson had asked if there was a problem with the first batch. Owen had said no. Henderson had looked at the boards Owen was rejecting, and then at the boards Owen was selecting, and said, "You know she's just going to sleep in it." "I know," Owen said. He took the better boards and went back to the house. Henderson watched him go, and had a theory by noon, which he mentioned to his wife that evening. His wife mentioned it to the woman who ran the dress shop. The dress shop woman mentioned it to the Reverend's wife, who had already formed conclusions of her own from the lunch tray she had seen Adelaide carrying to the side entrance on a Wednesday, and did not need additional information, but appreciated the confirmation. Owen was unaware of any of this. He was thinking about whether the left mortise joint was as tight as the right one, and whether the finish he was planning would do what the wood deserved. The work was good. Owen had learned to pay attention to this distinction, whether the work felt like building something or merely completing a contract. The bed was the first kind. The oak behaved well with the new boards. The joinery was clean. The headboard came together on the second day with the satisfaction of wood that has been understood correctly. Adelaide came by in the mornings and afternoons. She did not hover. She appeared, assessed, occasionally said something precise, and left. On the second afternoon, she sat in the doorway for 20 minutes while he worked and said nothing. She left when she was ready. On the third afternoon, she sat with a book. She read for a while. Then she lowered it. "You went back to Henderson's," she said. "Yesterday morning," he said. "For the boards?" "Yes." She looked at the headboard. "They're better." "I know." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "My father's carpenter before you built the shelves in the parlor. He used the right materials, charged the right price, finished in the time he said." She paused. "They look like shelves," she said. "They don't look like anything was considered." She looked at the headboard. "The bed looks like something was considered," she said. She stood and left. Owen sat with the headboard in his hands and thought about what she had said, the distinction between work that was completed and work that was considered. He had been building things for 16 years and had never heard the person he was building for make that distinction. He went back to the headboard. He spent 2 more hours on the finishing that nobody had asked for. He did not examine why. When he left for the evening, Henderson was closing up the yard and called out from the gate, "We're after Sagebrush." Owen said, "New Mexico, probably." Henderson said, "You always know where you're going?" Owen thought about it. "Mostly I know where I'm leaving," he said. Henderson nodded as if this confirmed something. Owen walked back to the boarding house and did not think about that. On the third day, he completed the bed. He installed it in the late afternoon. Frame set, headboard secured, joints checked and checked again, the finish coat dry. He stood back and looked at it. The grain ran correctly through every major surface. The joinery was seamless at every joint. The headboard had a quality that was not decorative but structural. It had been considered the way Adelaide had said, and the considering showed. He collected his tools. He carried them to the hall. He walked to the top of the stairs. He turned to leave. Surprised. "Who said your work was done?" Adelaide was in the doorway of the bedroom, arms crossed. He looked at her. "The bed is done," he said. Sarcastic. "The bed is done," she agreed. "The shelving unit for the east wall isn't started. The writing table is in the contract. The back porch railing needs replacing." He stood at the top of the stairs and looked at her across the landing. She was 25 years old, and she had noticed a hairline check in a plank of oak on the first morning and had brought him coffee without making a conversation of it, and had sat in a doorway for 20 minutes watching him work without saying anything until she had something worth saying. He had been planning to finish the remaining items. He had been planning to finish them in order. He had not been planning, when he turned to leave at the top of the stairs, to feel anything particular about being told to stay. He felt something particular about it. "I know the contract," he said. "Then you know you're not done," she said. She held his gaze for a moment, in which neither of them was talking about the shelving unit or the writing table or the back porch railing. Then she nodded, with the air of a practical conversation concluded. "Same time tomorrow," she said. She went back into the room. Owen stood at the top of the stairs. He did not move immediately. Then he carried his tools back down to the workshop and sat on the stool by the window and picked up a chisel he had already cleaned and began cleaning it again. Sagebrush had the comprehensive awareness of 340 people organized around a railroad junction. By the end of Owen's second week at the Vane house, most of the relevant parties knew that the carpenter was exceptionally careful, that he had gone back to Henderson's for better boards, that Adelaide had been seen in the workshop 3 times on a Tuesday that was supposed to be her morning in town, and that the Reverend's wife had observed Adelaide carrying a lunch tray to the side entrance on a Wednesday. Henderson had a theory. His wife had the same theory by that evening. By Sunday, most of Sagebrush had formed a version of it. The theory was that Adelaide Vane, who had turned down 2 perfectly acceptable suitors in 3 years, and who had opinions about everything and said them out loud, had found a man who did not find this difficult. The town found this satisfying. Adelaide understood the town was watching. Sighs. She had grown up in Sagebrush and had made her peace with the watching by the time she was 16, which was approximately when she had first publicly contradicted the Reverend's wife and had understood that there was no version of herself that would please everyone and she might as well be useful rather than agreeable. She brought him coffee each morning. She pointed out things worth pointing out. She sat in the doorway on Tuesday afternoons when she had things to think about and found that thinking was easier when his hands were working in the same room. She did not examine this too closely. She had learned from 25 years of being herself that some things became complicated when examined and were better approached through action. So she acted. She brought the coffee, she kept the book nearby. She showed up to see whether the boards had been considered. On the 3rd Tuesday, she arrived to find Owen at the workbench with sketches rather than tools, 3 versions of the writing table laid out in front of him, proportioned differently from each other. She looked at all 3. Then she pointed to the 3rd. That one. Why that one? He said. She studied the sketch. The others are tables, she said. That one is specifically a table for this room. She paused. I could adjust the drawer proportion here. She touched the sketch briefly. And it would also function as a drafting surface, which I've been wanting since I was 17. He looked at the adjustment she was indicating. It was correct. He picked up the pencil and marked it. She said nothing more about it. She took the other 2 sketches and folded them and put them in the pocket of her apron. He watched her do this. Why are you keeping those? He asked. Because you didn't, she said. And before he could decide what that meant, she was already halfway down the stairs. The shelving unit took 4 days. Owen built it with the same care he had brought to the bed. Grain running correctly, joints tight, proportions working with the room rather than simply filling it. Adelaide came by each morning. She had stopped making a pretext of it. On the 2nd day, she brought a book and read while he worked. He found he did not mind this. He found, to his larger surprise, that he worked better with her in the room. Not differently, better. With the awareness of someone paying attention in a way that made the attention worth having. One afternoon, she said without looking up from the book, "Your mother taught you, or your father?" He measured a shelf board before answering. "Father," he said. And his father before him. 3 generations of men who go back for better boards, she said. I don't know about my grandfather, he said. My father, yes. She turned a page. My mother used to say that if I was going to inherit a house, I ought to know when someone was fixing it badly. Your mother inspected mortise joints? She lowered the book enough to look at him over the top. She inspected people, she said. The joints were my idea. He worked. She read. How many towns? She said, later in the same afternoon. He looked up. Since I left home. Curious. Since you stopped calling anywhere home, she said. His hand was still for half a second over the plane. 11, he said. Adelaide lowered the book. That sounds exhausting. You get good at packing, he said. She held his gaze for a moment. Then she looked back at the page. The workshop was quiet for a while. Then she said, And where after this one? He looked at the shelf he was fitting. New Mexico, probably. Probably, she said. Just that. Pause. She went back to the book. Owen went back to the shelf. He thought about probably as a word for places you intended to go but had not yet decided to leave other places for. He thought about 11 towns and being good at packing. Thoughtful. He thought about the third sketch marked up with a pencil and the 2 folded designs in an apron pocket. He thought about this for the rest of the afternoon and said nothing more about New Mexico. Before we go on, most of you listening right now are somewhere in the middle of something. Maybe you're driving or cooking or folding laundry or sitting somewhere quiet letting this story keep you company. That's what Forever on the Frontier is for. If Owen and Adelaide are keeping you company today, leave a like. It means more than you know. Tell me in the comments where you are right now while you listen. I read every single one. Now let's get back, because Edmund Vane is coming home from Denver. Edmund Vane returned from Denver on a Thursday afternoon, 2 days earlier than expected. in the company of a man named Marcus Whitfield. Owen was in the workshop when the carriage arrived. He heard the horses and the greetings from the drive. He paid no particular attention until Adelaide appeared in the workshop doorway with the expression he had not seen before. Not the considering one, or the noticing one, or the one she wore when she had a position. This one was the expression of someone who has seen something coming from a distance and has been hoping it would veer. "My father is home," she said. "I heard. He's brought Marcus Whitfield." Owen did not know this name. He looked at her face. "Who is Marcus Whitfield?" he said. "A business partner from Denver." She paused. "He's been to dinner 4 times in the past year." Owen understood what 4 dinners in a year meant in this context. "Ah," he said. "Yes," she said. She left. Adelaide Vane appeared at the workshop door 20 minutes later. He looked at the work in progress, the writing table taking shape, the shelving unit visible through the open door to the house, with the eye of a man who understood quality and recognized it quickly. "The bed," he said. Owen looked at him. "Adelaide showed me," Edmund said. "This morning." He held Owen's gaze. "That is not a piece of furniture that was given only what the commission required." Owen looked at the table. "The commission was for a bed," he said. "I built a bed." Edmund looked at him for a moment with the expression of a man noting something for a category that will be relevant later. "I went by Henderson's this morning," he said. "He mentioned you came back for different boards." "The grain was wrong," Owen said. Edmund nodded. "Once." He went back to the house. Owen stood in the workshop and thought about a man who had noticed what the bed was without making a thing of it and had gone inside. He went back to the table. He worked through the afternoon with the awareness of Marcus Whitfield somewhere in the house, which was not an awareness he had any particular right to have. Owen encountered Marcus Whitfield on the second morning. He was crossing the hall when Whitfield came out of the dining room and nearly walked into him. Whitfield was 35, well-dressed in the way of a man who understood that clothes made a statement and intended his to be clear, with the easy confidence of someone accustomed to being the most important person in most rooms. Curious. He looked at Owen with the assessment of a man categorizing something quickly. "The carpenter," he said. "Yes," Owen said. Whitfield glanced at the staircase, at the workshop door, then back at Owen with the particular expression of a man who has identified a variable and is deciding whether it requires management. "Good work," Whitfield said in the tone of a man delivering a verdict to someone who should be pleased to receive it. Pause. "Thank you," Owen said. He went up the stairs. Adelaide was on the landing. She had clearly heard this from above. She had the expression of someone who has just watched 2 things happen and is filing both. "He does that to everyone," she said. "Categorizes them, decides what something is and where it belongs." "It's efficient," Owen said. "It is," she said. She looked at the workshop door below. "He categorized the furniture too, called it a very good carpenter's work, which is true." She held his gaze. "And an asset to the project." Owen looked at the landing rail, which was on the contract. "I should get to the railing," he said. "Yes," she said. She went into the room with the shelves. He went to get the tools for the railing. He worked on the landing rail for the rest of the morning and did not think about Marcus Whitfield calling him an asset to the project, or about the specific way Adelaide had described this, or about what the description had meant. He spent a considerable portion of the afternoon doing none of these things. Adelaide came to the workshop on the 4th evening after her father's return. Not in the morning with the coffee, not in the afternoon with the book. In the evening, when Owen was cleaning tools and the light through the workshop window was the specific gold of a Colorado September evening. She sat on the stool by the window. He cleaned the tools. Neither of them said anything for a while. "He's asked my father," she said. Owen set down the plane. "My father will speak to me," she said, "which means he has already decided and wants to give me the courtesy of feeling consulted." "Is it something you want?" Owen said. She looked at the window. "No," she said. He cleaned the plane. He set it in the rack. "What do you want?" he said. She was quiet for a moment. "My father sees a good match," she said. "Marcus sees a good arrangement. Neither one has asked what I see." She looked at her hands in her lap. "I don't want to be the last piece in somebody else's plan." She looked at the tools on the bench. "I want someone to ask a question that starts from me, rather than ending at me." Owen set the chisels in the rack. He was 27 years old and had been building things since he was 11 and had been in Sagebrush for 2 months. He had gone back to Henderson's for better boards because the grain was wrong. He had spent 2 extra hours on a finish nobody had asked for. He had made 3 versions of a writing table because 2 of them were just tables. He looked at Adelaide on the stool by the window. He thought about a book lowered over the top of its own page, about 2 folded sketches in an apron pocket, about probably as a word for places you hadn't yet decided to leave other places for. "Adelaide," he said. "Yes." "The writing table is finished tomorrow," he said. "I know," she said. "What about after the table?" he said. She held his gaze steadily. "There's the back porch railing," she said. "The front step has been soft since spring, and I imagine that if someone looked carefully, they'd find other things." He held her gaze. "Then I'll look carefully," he said. She looked at the window. She looked at him. The workshop was warm and the tools were in their racks. "Same time tomorrow," she said. He nodded. She left. The chisel in his hand had been clean for several minutes, but he kept polishing it anyway. He started packing his bag on a Sunday, not dramatically. He was not a dramatic man. He had been in Sagebrush for 2 months, and the contract was nearly complete. And Marcus Whitfield was in the house, and Adelaide Vane had brought him from Denver, and Adelaide deserved something more than a carpenter who went back for better boards. He had been telling himself this since Thursday. He packed with the systematic efficiency of someone who has moved 11 times and has developed a method. Tools first, then clothes, then the small box where he kept the letters from his mother, the contract receipt from a Pueblo job, and the 3 sketches for the writing table, the 2 discarded ones that Adelaide had folded into her apron and returned to him the next morning without comment, and the one that had been built. He put them all in the box and closed it. He sat on the edge of the bed. He had built things for people in 11 towns. Most of them had never once looked at what he made and seen what he had put into it. They had looked at the result. That was what they had hired him for, and that was fair, and he had not expected anything else. Adelaide had noticed the grain direction on the first morning. She had noticed the mortise joint. She had seen the difference between a table and a table for a specific room. She had kept 2 discarded sketches in her apron pocket. He sat on the edge of the bed and thought about a woman who had said, "I don't want to be the last piece in somebody else's plan." He thought about the way she had said it, not asking him for anything, just saying a true thing plainly, the way she always said true things. He thought about 11 towns and being good at packing. He thought about going back to Henderson's. He thought about what it meant to use the better boards, even when nobody was going to check, because the grain being wrong mattered regardless. He opened the bag. He put the small box back. He put the letters back. He put everything back except the decision he had been using for 8 years. Finish the work and leave before the staying became something he had to decide about. He left that out. He left the bag on the bed and went to find Adelaide. He found her in the kitchen garden, not the formal garden, the kitchen garden, which she tended herself, and where she was doing something methodical with the late-season tomato plants. She looked up when she heard him on the path. He had not planned what to say. He had left the boarding house specifically without planning what to say, because planning what to say had historically been his method for not saying it. "I was packing my bag," he said. She lowered the garden tool. "You're not done," she said. "The railing is done," he said. "The step, the table, the shelves. The contract is done. I know that, she said. Adelaide, he said. Yes. I went back to Henderson's for better boards because the grain was wrong, he said. Nobody asked me to. Nobody would have known the difference. He held her gaze. I spent 2 hours on the bed finish that nobody paid for. I built 3 versions of a writing table because 2 of them were just tables. He stopped. I have been building things for people for 16 years, and most of them never once looked at what I made and saw what I put into it. He looked at her in the kitchen garden in the September afternoon. You saw it on the first morning, he said. I don't want to go to New Mexico, he said. I want to stay and find the other things that need doing. I want to ask a question that starts from you. She held his gaze. She was 25 years old and had turned down 2 efficient men and had grown up where having opinions made things complicated and had brought coffee to a carpenter who went back for better boards without making a conversation out of it. What is the question? She said. He looked at her in the kitchen garden with the tomato plants around them and Marcus Whitfield somewhere in the house and a bag unpacked on the boarding house bed. Will you marry me? He said, not arranged in a sequence, not the conclusion of an efficient calculation, just the true thing said plainly, starting from her. She held his gaze for a long moment. Then she said, What took you so long? He looked at her. I was packing my bag, he said. She picked up the garden tool. She looked at the tomato plants. She looked at him. Yes, she said, simply. The way she said everything that mattered. Edmund Vane received the news with raised eyebrows. Owen suspected the surprise was mostly courtesy. Curious, he had seen the bed. He had noted the mortise joints and the grain and the 2 extra hours of finish. He had watched his daughter bring coffee to the workshop every morning for 2 months, and had watched her sit in the doorway on Tuesday afternoons with a book, and had watched her return the folded sketches from her apron pocket the next day without comment. He was a practical man who had been making practical decisions for 30 years. But before he spoke to Owen, Adelaide spoke to him. Owen was not there for that conversation. He knew it had happened because Adelaide came to him afterward with a different expression than the one she'd had going in, steadier, resolved, the expression of a woman who has said something she needed to say and has been heard. Pause. What did you tell him? Owen said. That I wasn't asking whether it was sensible, she said. For once. Edmund's conversation with Owen was short. He sat across from him in the parlor and asked 3 questions. The first was about Owen's work, what he had done, what he was capable of, what he intended. Owen answered honestly. Journeyman carpenter for 8 years, good at the work, savings adequate for a start. The second question was about the bed, specifically why Owen had gone back to Henderson's for boards that would have been adequate. Curious. Because the grain was wrong, Owen said, and the grain being wrong mattered regardless of whether anyone was going to check. Edmund held his gaze. Adelaide checks, he said. I know, Owen said. I found that out on the first morning. Pause. Edmund was quiet for a moment. Marcus Whitfield, he said, is an efficient man. Yes, Owen said. Thoughtful. He would have been good for the business, Edmund said. Yes, Owen said. Edmund looked at the parlor, at the floors and shelves and the staircase with the new railing. He looked at the quality of it all. You went back for better boards, he said. Not quite a question. Yes, Owen said. Edmund held out his hand. Owen shook it. The grip was firm, the grip of a man concluding a transaction he considers sound. The building behind the house has been a storage room since 1882, Edmund said. Good east light. Adelaide would know what it needs. He went to find Marcus Whitfield. Owen sat in the parlor for a moment and thought about a practical man who had just made a decision that was also right. Marcus Whitfield left Sagebrush on a Tuesday. He left with the specific dignity of a man who has lost a negotiation and is not going to show it, which Adelaide observed from the upstairs landing and Owen observed from the workshop doorway, and Henderson observed from the lumberyard, which had a direct line of sight to the main road. Henderson mentioned it to his wife that evening. His wife mentioned it to the dress shop woman. The dress shop woman mentioned it to the Reverend's wife, who had already seen the carriage from the church window and had formed her conclusions. The conclusion was satisfactory. The Reverend's wife had been watching the Vane house for 2 months. A man who went back for better boards because the grain was wrong, and a woman who had been waiting for someone who noticed what she noticed. That was the most sensible outcome available, and she was glad the efficient gentleman from Denver had not made it permanent. She mentioned this to the Reverend. The Reverend said it was their own business. She said that was still an interesting perspective. Owen found Adelaide at the storage building that afternoon. She stood in the doorway of the space with good east light that had been full of equipment since 1882, looking at the interior with the expression she wore when she was taking inventory. Thoughtful. "The east window frame needs replacing," she said. "The floor is wrong. The workbench is solid, but the shelving doesn't work for a workshop." She turned. "I made a list." She held out a piece of paper. Owen took it. Curious 15 items, written in the precise hand he recognized from the 3 sketches. He looked at the list. He looked at her. "You made a list," he said. "The building needs work," she said. She paused. "I also made a note on the side about the storefront possibility, if the commissions develop the way I think they will. Client correspondence and material sourcing and the design consultations are already half the work on a project like this one." Owen looked at the notation in the margin of the list. She had drawn a small floor plan with measurements. "When did you do this?" he said. "This morning," she said, "while you were at the back porch railing." He looked at the floor plan. He looked at the list. He looked at the storage building with its good east light. "One thing at a time," he said. She almost smiled, the expression that was the beginning of a smile rather than the smile itself. "Same time tomorrow," she said. He put the list in his coat pocket. He looked at the building, which was going to become a workshop. He thought about a bag unpacked on a boarding house bed and a box of letters and 3 sketches. He thought about 11 towns and being good at packing. "Same time tomorrow," he said. They married in December, in the Sagebrush church on a Saturday, with Colorado winter outside and the whole town present, which was everyone. Henderson was there. He had been there since early, which he considered his right as a man who had provided the lumber for the bed, the shelves, the writing table, and the workshop renovation, and therefore had a legitimate stake in the outcome. The Reverend's wife was in the second row. She had opinions about the flowers, which she communicated to Adelaide through the Reverend, who delivered them with the diplomatic tone of a man who has been married for 23 years. Edmund Vane sat in the front row. Owen wore his good coat, the one he wore to every important occasion. This was the 4th occasion in 8 years. Adelaide wore a dress she had bought the fabric for in October and made herself, cream with a small detail at the collar. Exactly what the occasion required and nothing more, which was exactly how Adelaide approached everything. Owen stood at the altar and watched her come down the aisle and thought about a first morning and a woman who had noticed the grain direction before he had looked. He thought about better boards and a mortise joint and 2 hours of finish that nobody had asked for. He thought about a bag packed on a Sunday and put back down before he crossed the yard. He thought about, this is what the better boards were for. Not for the bed. For whatever came after the bed, if you were the kind of man who used the better boards, even when nobody was going to check. Adelaide reached the altar. She looked at him. He looked at her. After the ceremony, on the church steps, Henderson appeared at Owen's side. He looked at Adelaide across the churchyard, receiving congratulations from the Reverend's wife with the patience of a woman who knows the Reverend's wife has opinions about the flowers and is willing to hear them. He looked at Owen. "I told you," Henderson said. "She was just going to sleep in it." "You did," Owen said. Henderson nodded slowly. "I was wrong," he said. He walked back inside for the cake. Owen walked across the churchyard to his wife. She saw him coming and said nothing, and did not need to. The workshop was ready by February. Owen had worked on it through December and January alongside the commissions that had begun arriving once Sagebrush had fully assessed the shelves and the table and the bed, and had reached the conclusion Henderson had reached in October, that the carpenter who went back for better boards was the kind of craftsman worth keeping. The east window frame went first because the light mattered. The floor was jointed properly after that. The shelving was rebuilt for a working workshop, tools within reach, materials organized by use, nothing placed for appearance. Adelaide had been there for most of it, not hovering, appearing, assessing, occasionally saying something precise, bringing coffee, sitting on the stool on Thursday afternoons with the book, pointing out once that the plane rack was positioned for a right-handed user and Owen was left-handed, which was true, which he had not noticed, which he fixed the next morning. She had also, in the months since the wedding, developed a different kind of presence in the workshop. The client correspondence came to her naturally. The material sourcing, which required knowing what each commission needed before Owen had fully articulated it. She was faster at this than he was because she read rooms the way he read wood. The design consultations, which he had been conducting at the workbench with sketches and measurements, became something more. She had a way of understanding what clients wanted before they had said it completely, and of translating that into the proportions and grain choices that Owen would then build. The workshop was theirs. On the day it was declared complete, Owen stood in the center of it and looked at the east light and the proper floor, and the shelving that made sense, and the workbench that had always been solid. Adelaide stood beside him. "The list," he said. She took it from the shelf where it had been sitting since October. She read through the 15 items. She checked each one. "The sign," she said. He had put one up the previous week, wood cut and finished the way he cut and finished everything, the lettering clean. It said, "O. Callister, Carpentry." She looked at it for a moment, thoughtful. "It needs a second name," she said. He looked at her. "The design work, the client side, the sourcing and correspondence." She held his gaze. "I do half the work." He looked at the sign. He took it down. He took it to the bench. He added the second name in the same lettering as the first. He put it back above the door. The sign now read, "O. Callister" and "A. Callister, Carpentry and Design." Adelaide looked at it for a long moment. She looked at him. Softly, she almost smiled, the expression that was the beginning of a smile rather than the smile itself. "Better," she said. She crossed the last item off the list. She folded it and put it in her apron pocket the way she had put the sketches there in October. Owen did not ask what she was keeping it for. He understood that some things you keep. The workshop was warm and the east light was good, and outside the Colorado February was cold and clear, and on the sign above the door there were 2 names, and everything was exactly and completely right. Owen Callister went back to Henderson's for better boards because the grain was wrong. Nobody asked him to. Nobody would have known the difference. He did it because he was the kind of man who did the extra work even when nobody was going to check, because the grain being wrong mattered regardless of whether anyone noticed. Adelaide Vane noticed on the first morning. She noticed a hairline check in a side rail. She noticed the mortise joint. She noticed the difference between a table and a table, specifically for a room. She kept 2 discarded sketches in her apron pocket. She had been waiting, without knowing she was waiting, for someone who noticed the same thing she noticed. That is the whole story. Not the bed, not the shelves or the writing table or the workshop with the good east light or the sign with 2 names above the door. Those are what happened after. The story is a man who used the better boards because it was right, and a woman who saw that and understood what it meant, and the specific recognition that passes between 2 people when one of them has been doing something carefully for their whole life, and the other one finally sees it. Some people do the minimum the work requires. Some people go back for better boards. If you are lucky, you find someone who notices. If you are very lucky, that someone folds the designs into her apron pocket and keeps them. May God bless each and every one of you who listened today. Until next time, keep writing.